everyone, it's Marla at Astrology. Welcome back. I want to talk to you guys about the astrology that's coming up for July. There's a lot of things happening, and I want to kind of give you an overview of the month and some important dates that you are going to want to watch out for. Before I get into that, I have a couple of announcements to make. The first one is I want to remind you about the Sacred Union and Ascension workshop that I'm going to be doing in Niagara Falls, New York, September 27th, 28th, and 29th. This is going to be in conjunction with some dear members of my soul family, Kalina Melnar at Sacred Heart Ascension, Debbie Dubois at True Sacred Union, and Rob and Angie from Twinfinity. It's going to be a great time and a time to take a little break for yourself, and some of us may need that after the next couple months and the shift that we're getting ready to undergo starting in July. Of course, we've been doing a lot of shifting this whole year, but things are about to get intense, I think. If you would like more information about the workshop, just head over to my website, twinstrology.com, and I have more information with the details and how you can get tickets for that. So I hope to see you there. I also want to share some new services that I'm offering, and that is QHHT, BQH, and Reiki sessions. My website is not updated as of yet, but I just want to give you guys a heads up about the changes that I'm bringing in. So QHHT, for those of you that don't know, is Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, and this was developed by Dolores Cannon. So this is a type of hypnosis that's going to help you understand where you are at your life. It's a past life regression, although you can go into future lives and current lives as well. And then we're going to communicate with your higher self. QHHT has to be done in person. If for some reason you cannot make an in-person session with me, then we can consider using BQH, which is Beyond Quantum Healing, and we can have a discussion about whether that would be appropriate for you or not. It's a similar technique to QHHT, but it's a little bit different, and we can incorporate a lot of different techniques into a BQH session. And then, as I mentioned, I'm also going to be offering Reiki. I've been doing Reiki since 2014, but I was guided just recently to go get my Reiki master and start offering this either by distance or in person if you're in the Buffalo area. I live in the suburbs of Buffalo, New York. So if you want to meet with me in person, you've got to come here, or you've got to wait till I travel to some place and available for sessions and wherever I'm traveling. So with that in mind, I want to share that in July, I'm going to be outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, July 27th and 28th. I think I'm going to be in Green Tree, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh. I don't know for sure where I'm going to be, but it will be around that area. And I'll be available for one-on-one sessions. If you're interested in having a session with me, again, go to my website and I have a post up with more information, and then send me a message and I'll see, if I can schedule people in. The only sessions that I'm going to be doing in Pittsburgh will be for QHHT or for Reiki. Everything else is still going to be done the way I normally do it. Okay, so let's talk about the energies of July. Today is June 30th, and this is where I want to start, because there's a very important key to the incoming energies happening today. So if you look at Chiron, and this is Chiron's glyph right here, Chiron moves onto 5 degrees and 55 minutes of Aries. 555. And I know all of you guys know that 5 represents change. And that is exactly what we have coming in the month of July. Lots of changes. Changes on a multidimensional level. We are completing a karmic cycle over the next couple months. These things don't, happen in one day, but July and August and into September, lots of karma being shifted, timelines collapsing, and Chiron is definitely an indication of this. Chiron here being on 555, it's telling me intuitively that we've reached this multi-dimensional tipping point and we're ready to go on to a new phase. And the energy of July is all about intensely clearing out the old so that when we go into the Lion's Gate in August, we'll be prepared to start bringing in the new. Now, not only is Chiron on 555, but also today, Uranus moves to 5 degrees and 55 minutes of Taurus. And this is indeed opening up this portal to change. Now, Chiron's actually going to be on that degree for a couple days. He's going to be there through the new moon solar eclipse on July 2nd. But Uranus is only going to be at exactly 5:55 for about 12 hours. But it's long enough to create this shift. Now, if we talk about kind of the overall energy for July, what I would say is that since last July, we've been working on breaking down this idea of separation. And many of you know that there is no separation, that we're all one. The problem is we know that in our mind, but we're still reacting from our old patterns, from our programming. We still have our walls up in a lot of ways. It's like our consciousness has shifted to unity consciousness, but sometimes we fall back into these patterns, especially when we're triggered by something, and then we react from that emotional subconscious place rather than from what we've learned on this higher consciousness level. It's kind of like we're still straddling two worlds right now. But I want to say there was a Sabian symbol somewhere recently or coming up that kind of said that. Like, we're straddling two worlds and we're still training ourselves to let go of the old and shift into this new stuff. So with that, with ending this idea of separation more and more, we're needing to break down any walls that we have in front of our heart, because we're moving more deeply into our heart space. We're moving into our high heart. That's what I talked about back in January with my video on the Sirius portal. And that video took us to July and August, and how July and August are really bringing in this shift into our high heart. And it absolutely is. I'm sure that you guys are feeling it. And so July is all about letting down our walls, clearing away the patterns, breaking the chains of karma so that we can move on to this next stage. So there's likely to be some challenging times, of course, as we do this. And it's a time where we really need to develop our trust. Really focusing on the truth that we know, that we are loved, that we are being guided, and that everything that we are doing is being divinely directed. So it's important to stay in that mindset regardless of the things that might happen. So just looking at today's astrology and Chiron at that 5:55, the Sabian there is a square brightly lighted on one side. And this is representing the box of limitations that we've been in for a very long time. Some of those limitations have been put upon us by authority figures. And some of those limitations we've put upon ourselves out of fear and out of a desire to protect ourselves. But now one side of that box is being lit up, and that is the universal energies coming in, the higher consciousness streaming in. And it's like that side of the box is no longer solid. That is light. And it's an opportunity for you to step out of the box. It's like you don't have to live that way anymore. So that's a big part of this shift that we're going through and releasing ourselves from these patterns. Now, Uranus, what his Sabian is right now, is a bridge being built across a high, narrow gorge. So, this could be a Sabian. Like I said, we're straddling two worlds. And we need a bridge. We need that rainbow bridge between the dimensions. And in a lot of ways, that's what we're crossing right now. But this building a bridge is also about building a bridge to other people, connecting with other people and in an authentic and heart-shaped space. And it's talking about a high, narrow gorge as well. You can see that high gorge as being the higher dimensions even. So then on the 2nd, we have the first eclipse. That's going to be at 10 degrees of Cancer. It's a new moon solar eclipse. And this is helping us with the things that we need to clear, like I said, to get into our heart. We've been dealing with the North and South node in Cancer. That's been helping us with the shift. And the eclipses, they kind of emphasize that energy, because all an eclipse is a full or new moon that's conjunct the North or South node. So here we have one that's happening on the North node. This is wanting to bring in new energy. So if we look at that Cancer Capricorn axis, we've had the South node in Capricorn with Saturn and Pluto. And this is us throwing off the chains of authority and the limitations that other people have put on us, whether that's come from our family or our partners or government, society in general. We're needing to break down those previously held limitations. Anywhere where we've seen power outside of ourselves, we need to confront those things now. This also has to do with negative judgment as well, whether we've been judging other people or other people have judged us, and how those judgments have affected our programs and our beliefs. For many of you, like, other people's judgments have added to your self-esteem issues, and I feel like July, especially for the Divine Feminine, July will be a month where you make a lot of shifts around self-esteem and images of beauty. Another place you might have a lot of shifts is around religion and perhaps experiencing religious trauma. That could be considered authority figures or any type of persecution as well. And that kind of energy, this energy of judgment and being persecuted or not feeling good enough, is likely to intensify at the end of August, September, when the sun goes into Virgo and we start having that Virgo energy activated. But with all this Cancer energy, what we're doing is we're healing our inner child. And our inner child is what triggers us into our old programming and patterns when our inner child is hurt. So now we're needing to become more authentic. And with that, we're balancing our emotional state. Cancer rules our emotional side. Yet the energy of Capricorn, the opposite, tends to be too emotional. So what we're doing here is we're creating that balance of the emotions. So where we're properly in tune with our emotions without all this karmic baggage of triggers and programs and judgments. And what that is going to do is allow us to create a proper foundation to be heart-centered. Think about Cancer. Cancer is the crab. Cancer doesn't like to be vulnerable, and when they feel vulnerable, they crawl into their little crab shell. I'm a Cancer, and I definitely know what that's like. But it's time for all of us to take the shell off, to step out of that box, and to let ourselves be open and to be vulnerable. And that's a very scary thing. We're all healing elements of our divine masculine. The divine masculine is going through a lot right now, a lot of pressure to move through these fears and this self-protection mode and these limits that the divine masculine within all of us has created for self-protection because of this fear of vulnerability. But we no longer need that anymore because we're becoming more empowered in ourselves. We're not going to be as bothered by judgment. We're overcoming our limitations. And ultimately what this represents is we're claiming our sovereignty. We're claiming our power. And that is a very good thing. So then our next day that we need to talk about is July 7th. July 7th, Mercury goes retrograde at 4 degrees of Leo. And Mercury will be retrograde to July 31st if you're in the USA, or August 1st if you're anywhere else in the world. This Mercury retrograde is really important because we're wanting to bring out this creative side of ourselves that is Mercury in Leo, and yet we still need to heal something. We're still not quite ready to let ourselves be so vulnerable and so exposed. We still have some kind of program that we're running. So Mercury's going retrograde back into Cancer so that he can help us heal whatever this block is. And then when he moves forward, we'll be ready to be more open. I expect relationships to play a very big role in July, especially with Mercury retrograde. And you're likely to have people from the past coming back into your life, or people looking for second chances, or even just people wanting to heal something with you, people asking for forgiveness, or perhaps you need to go to someone and ask for forgiveness. Because the timelines are shifting, and the way to collapse the timelines is real simple. It's just to forgive and let go. If you don't know how to do that, I have videos. I have a video on timelines. I have a video on the violet flame, which you can use to clear timelines, and also a video on Ho'oponopono. Both those things, the violet flame and Ho'oponopono, can help you create forgiveness and break that karmic tie. So if you're struggling with anything like that right now, that would be something that I suggest that you work on. But yeah, relationships are going to be important. If you're a twin flame, you might be experiencing a lot of sexual energy around the month of July as well. And I think many of you have felt your twin flame connection come back online, perhaps after being kind of detached from each other for a while. But this energy of union is becoming stronger now. It's also time to recharge. Remember, Mercury's retrograde. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of high frequencies coming in, a lot of shifting. So please just take time for yourself. But the day that Mercury goes retrograde is actually the day of the new moon in Leo. So all of these events are working together for us. Now, also on July 7th, another thing that we need to watch is Venus. and she is in a square to Chiron, and you're likely to be feeling this around the time of the new moon eclipse. But by July 7th, the energy is going to be pretty intense. And when Venus is in a hard aspect to Chiron, it represents that we need to release something on an emotional level. And it usually brings in a little bit challenging energy. Usually there's some sadness. Like I said, there's an emotional release. But we really need this right now with this energy coming in, because that old emotional pain is blocking you from fully opening up your heart. So just keep that in mind, that you might be dealing with some triggers. And, guys, whenever we know that this is something that's happening on a big collective scale, we don't need to get so attached to it. We don't need to feel so distraught by it, that we're being singled out, that it's happening to everybody, because we're all releasing separation. And with separation, that feeling of abandonment, we don't need it anymore, because we're all one. And Venus is also going to be sextiling Uranus as well, which is preparing us to change. Then on the 8th, also on the 7th, I wanted to mention that the asteroid Karma crosses the Aries point and makes an opposition with Destin. So this is another indication that we're ending a karmic cycle, because Karma is crossing that first degree of the zodiac. And the Sabian is a woman arising out of the sea. A sail is embracing her. It's all about manifestation, about rebirth, cleansing, new energy. But the interesting thing with Karma is that Karma is going to go retrograde on August 6th. And so Karma is going to go over the Aries point 2 more times. So you have time. You have another chance. If you go through the next couple months and you don't clear the karma that you need to, you're going to get another chance. Okay, but still, you need to focus on doing this work. Otherwise, August is going to end up being very intense for you. Also, when Karma goes over the Aries point, it's going to be making an in conjunction to the asteroid Union. And Union's going to be trining Uranus. So there's releasing that needs to be done in order for unions to move forward, if you're a twin flame, or if you're just looking to balance your own inner masculine and feminine energy. So then on the 8th, Chiron goes retrograde, and Chiron is going to be retrograde. Maybe I didn't write that down. No, I did. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. The thing that I want to mention about Chiron, though, is that Chiron has been on this 5th degree of Aries for a long time. Actually, Chiron moved to the 5th degree of Aries on May 5th, which is 5/5. And he's going to stay on this 5th degree until August 26th, and that is going to be the day that the Lion's Gate close. I haven't really tuned into the energy of August fully yet, but I expect that that will be the day that the Lion's Gate closes. And I'm mentioning that because that whole time, Chiron's been on that Sabian symbol about the square. And I've been talking so much since May about having to move past the blocks that we have to love and the distrust that's happened between the masculine and feminine energies, and all the wounding that's gone on between us that, it makes us afraid to trust each other. Also on that day, Mercury is making a conjunction with Mars and trining Chiron and squaring Uranus. You might want to be careful not to put your foot in your mouth on that day. You want to watch what you say. You may feel like arguing with people. You may have a hot temper. Things may be coming out. So mark that down as a day you want to be careful. Maybe not talk to too many people on that day. So then going to the next eclipse, that is on July 16th. And that's going to be at 24 degrees Capricorn for the moon and 24 degrees Cancer for the sun. So those things that I talked about with the Cancer Capricorn energy, there's going to be a big release for everybody around that energy. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is that Chiron actually went from 555 to 556 for a while, and now he's gone retrograde, and by the time of the second eclipse, he's back on 555. So for both of the eclipse, he's on that degree that's representing change. So it's definitely an indication of the shifts. And we have Venus conjuncting the North Node on the day of that eclipse too. So Venus is learning about what she needs to do to move forward. Where is she? What is she being guided towards? How can she heal? And making a nice trine to Neptune too. So it might be a day where we feel a lot of love energy. Well, even though like we're going to be releasing a lot, and well, she's making an opposition with Saturn too. So maybe I take that back a little bit. But it will be a time where we are seeing what we need to do to move forward, even if we're still releasing things. We have all these planets in Cancer opposing all these planets in Capricorn. So that's creating a lot of tension. So then I want to go back to the 22nd. And that's a day where Venus is going to be crossing that eclipse degree. So that might be bringing up something that happened on the 16th, something that was triggered by the eclipse, especially if it was around relationships. There might be something coming up around that again. Then I want to mention the 25th. Now this program that I'm using, this software to show you how the planets are moving, doesn't allow for asteroids. But I want to tell you what's going on with the asteroids. We have asteroid union making an in conjunction with Chiron. And again, Chiron now is opposing destiny. And on that day, the 25th, there's going to be a big influx of energy. High energies of light. So that is helping us shift as well on a multidimensional level, especially if you're a twin flame. But it's asking you to release something, because in conjunctions always need us to release some kind of karma so we can bring that energy into alignment. So that's another day you're going to want to watch. And then we go to July 31st. And then we have a new moon in Leo at 8 degrees. The Sabian symbol for that new moon is glass blowers shape beautiful forms with their controlled breathing. I love that Sabian because it's telling us that we're manifesting things, that we're in control. Well, I should say everything is under control, and that we just have to breathe. and everything's working out. And continue, to take time for yourself. Mercury is stationing forward on this day, the 31st, around the time of the new moon. But I want you to look at Venus, because now Venus is trining Chiron and squaring Uranus. This is important because whatever came up for you when Venus was squaring Chiron, you're getting some kind of resolution with that new moon. And Venus is squaring Chiron, so it's like Uranus. It's like you're ready for change now. When Venus met up with the North Node, she met up with Mercury in retrograde, she opposed Saturn and Pluto, and she got the messages. Now, the time to change is there. Time to change how we love. And we're going to do that by being forgiving, compassionate, balanced, and open. And then we'll be ready to shift those timelines. Now, one thing I want to mention to you guys, this new moon, it's actually happening on the 31st if you're in the States. It's going to be happening on August 1st if you're in other places in the world. But if you're in Eastern Standard Time, look at the time of the new moon. 11:11 p.m. Sun and moon meeting up. So that is a big indication of what is ahead, because the 2 weeks after this new moon, there's major incoming energies and energetic shifts. Lots of light being brought in. And it's like we go through July, we release a lot of karma, and we're releasing that karma from our physical bodies, from our cells, from our DNA. And when we get to August, the light is coming in and the light is ready to fill that void. And so the light is infiltrating us, and we are ready to ascend to a new level. So if you've been doing a lot of your work, the high intense frequencies that are coming in should be fine. But if you haven't been and you're still needing to clear a lot of things, then you might find it a little more challenging to adjust to the energies. But as I mentioned in my Sirius Portal video, the Lionsgate this year is a big push towards getting into the heart. Also on the 31st, well, I should say the 1st, Mercury makes his second crossing over the eclipse degree. So Mercury is activating whatever came up around that full moon in Capricorn. Mercury's ready to help you shift something so that you can move forward on that level. When Venus is squaring Chiron, I'm getting so confused with all these squares. When she's trining Chiron, she's actually on the degree an old-fashioned conservative woman is confronted by an up-to-date girl. So remember I told you, like, you're ready for change. That Sabian symbol is echoing that. It's saying, yep, it's time to change now. We don't have to live in the old ways. We don't have to live by the old programming. The box has been opened and we can step outside of it. So thank you so much. I hope that this reading resonated with you, gave you some ideas about the energy that's coming up. Very exciting times over the next couple months. Give yourself a lot of breathing space, a lot of rest. Take it one day at a time. Because when you're working on confronting fear and making these timeline shifts, you're doing a lot of energetic work. And even though you can't see it, you're going to feel it. And you need to honor yourself in that. Thank you so much, guys. Sending you a lot of love, and I'll speak to you soon.